Testing 1, 2, 3. Welcome, everybody. This is Cheston, Bulgin, going live. Truck Profit Academy, Trucking Systems Blueprint. Let's go. Okay, welcome, everybody. Today is June 17th, 2024. Good to be with you on a Monday night. Let's go. And we're going to continue this conversation today on the Trucking Systems Blueprint. This is the Truck Profit Accelerator Trucking Systems Blueprint. So I want to just state that I get to be in New York today. I'm in New York today traveling, and there might be some technological issues in the background. So I just want you to bear with me if there are. I think we're good to go in terms of sound and everything else. And today, we're going to leave you with some powerful actions inside of what it looks like to use the technology of load boards. So we're in part 4 of our series of tech stack in the Truck Profit Accelerator Blueprint, Systems Blueprint, and we're looking at load boards, okay? First things first, let's just get into it. All right, so this is how you reach us. It's By the Books Consulting. All right, you can reach us at 888-4BTV now. That's 888-428-2669. Or you can reach us on the web at bythebooksconsultants.com or at youraccountingsuperhero.com. And of course, this is my email, cheston@bythebooksconsultants.com. And just to recap, we do things related to the accounting, technology like QuickBooks Online, co-advisors with QuickBooks Online or the financial accounting software. We help you with tax strategy, tax planning, and of course, business advisory, and things like this, especially with trucking companies, people like you. And for you YouTubers, people that are watching on YouTube, if you're not a part of this Truck Profit Academy, you want to be a part of this Truck Profit Academy. All right, we're giving you resources every single day, really, inside of our community, where you can get access to the things that we talk about here, like ways to improve the way you do trucking in terms of, for example, this conversation, technology, well, how to bring it together so that you can create a really powerful system in your business. So at the end of the day, you deliver more profitability to what you're doing in trucking, keep more of that money in your pocket, right? Make sure you get to keep that and grow that and create freedom, wealth, and legacy in trucking, all right? So that's Truck Profit Academy. If you're not in that community, you can join now for free, right? Won't be the case all the time, but you can join right now for free. That's what I want to say. You can do that by going to www.truckprofitacademy.com/go. There's a /go on the end of that. And you get signed up right now today for free, which is pretty fantastic. Quick disclaimer before we get started. Following is for educational purposes only and is not to be considered financial, accounting, or legal advice. Please consult your tax, accounting, and/or legal professional for specific advice. And just a quick recap, guys, and where we are today in the conversation. We're going over the Truck Profit Accelerator Systems Blueprint, and we're going over the first part of this blueprint, which is number 1 in systems, your tech stack. This is what we start out with, so you have the tools necessary to bring it all together, how to use and leverage those tools, all right, tech stack. So we've talked about a few things so far. We talked about trucking management software, TMS. We've also talked about financial tracking software. And we've also talked about ELDs. And today, look at that, in this conversation about load boards. Like, say, what? Load boards? I know what load boards are, Cheston. I've been in the business for a while. This is kind of rudimentary, isn't it? Well, maybe, maybe not, right? Are you leveraging load boards to the best of their capability in your fleet? Are you optimizing the way that you use load boards in your fleet? You may understand what they are, but you may learn something today, most likely, that'll improve the efficiency at which you use load boards in your fleet. Now, one of the things that I want to bring to the surface as we move into this the next slide here. One of the things I want to bring to the surface as we talk about load boards is that many people that I come across in the trucking industry, they think they're doing a whole lot. They are really they're putting forth a lot of effort inside of the business. They're working pretty hard and pretty tough in their business. They have a lot of things that they have that they're utilizing in their business. At the same time, they're not utilizing them to their optimal nature. They're not utilizing them to their optimal nature, which means that they're leaving money on the table, they're leaving time on the table, they're leaving resources on the table because they're not using them as efficiently as they could. And although they're working pretty hard, they could be working a lot less and doing a lot more by leveraging the systems to the best of their capability. So what do I mean? Okay. Now I've had conversations with people that say, man, I'm on the DAT load board all day, man. I just can't find anything. Or I have other people that talk about, man, I've been on truckstop.com and I'm just not finding anything. Some people are using both, right? And they're kind of intertwined there, and there's this overlap there for what's showing up on each one of those load boards for the most part. But then there are some there that are uniquely different, right? They're only available either on truckstop.com or in that load board. And I mean, if you're not looking at both, you may be missing out on a few opportunities. But those are not the only options, guys. They're not, right? So what I find is that people will be locked into one, their favorite, they're the one they like to use, but then there's an exclusion. There are blind spots to what else is available. And because there are blind spots and exclusions to what else is available, they are missing out on opportunities to get higher market rates on loads and do effective load planning, is what I want to say. All right. So we're going to take a look at what it means to utilize load boards effectively, like when they come into place. I've mentioned a couple of these load boards that many of you may know that are on this conversation. Some of you may not know the ones I've mentioned, which is the DAT load board and truckstop.com. You may not be familiar with that if you're not really familiar with load boards already. But guess what? We're going to go into that conversation today. There's so many load boards we can look at, guys. There are more and more coming up each and every day, right? That you can lean on and leverage as a fleet owner. But what does it take really to have the usage of a load board in a way where you're going to get the full leverage of it for one, so that you can plan loads effectively, which means that at the end of the day, you're able to make more money up front. Now, if you can make more money up front, that means you get to keep more money on the back end, right? When I say make more money, it means you're actually getting more loads, revenue per mile, right? You're getting more revenue per mile. You're getting it in the lanes that make sense for your business, right? The lanes that make sense for your business, your model, right? And you're getting a certain amount of loads per week per truck, okay? Now, if you're utilizing load boards efficiently, then you'll be able to get what you want at a higher probability than if you would not use load boards to that level of effectiveness, efficiency, okay? So I'm going to be here with you in the conversation really quickly. Guys, it's not going to be a long conversation tonight. I really want to leave you with a few things, right? And this is the main reason why I'm not going to keep it too long. I want to leave you with a few things that you can take with you from this conversation so that you can deploy this right now moving forward from now into the future, okay? So let's talk about this. Let's go. All right, so when we talk about load boards, guys, I've mentioned a few that I mentioned actually two that are out there that most people know, okay? Now, one of those main boards, let me just check in and make sure that I'm fully visible online with you guys. Let's check in real quick. Guys, my sound on my computer, just checking in, my sound on my computer is not working, so I'm using my sound on my phone. All right, so you may be watching and listening to me on my phone. All right, so I want to make sure you can hear me, and also I don't want you to see me. So I'm going to go ahead and pin. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and pin. Spotlight me for everyone to see. Let's go. All right, awesome. So now I'm pinned. So most likely you can see me now as well. All right. It's important here, guys. I want to go over this real quick. Main load boards. Let's make sure that this is This is also visible, guys. Let's go. Boom. There we go. All right. All right. So these are a couple load boards that we have here. All right. A few of them that we have here. Now, most of you know that board, you know that truckstop.com. Some of you know LoadSmart, 123 load board, and then we have other options. Right? We have 3PL load board solutions and asset-based solution for load boards. Now, what does this really mean? All right. So typically, how it works is there is a market in which we go on a board, and there are brokers and shippers who list freight on that load board as available. You can even see carriers who are listing their trucks, right, available online. That's for capacity, right? So it's a marketplace, really, right? It's a marketplace where you can go, you can see what freight is available, and this is it's interesting how this is impacting the economics of it because there's supply and demand, right? So if there are a lot of trucks in the area, a lot of equipment in the area for a specific amount of volume of freight, well then the load rates will most likely go down. Okay, they're going to go down. So this is a great place to look at to see exactly how we can look. We can see where the market is. Like if there's capacity, high capacity of freight carriers in one area, then we know that we're not going to get favorable rates for loads in that specific area, right? So this is one of the things that we want to understand when we're looking at load boards. It's like, well, I want to understand what the market is looking like in specific areas, right? In terms of load planning, right? So basically, load boards are a load planning tool, right? And in order to use this load planning tool, we want to understand what it gives us in terms of information and what we can lean on in terms of that information to make our decisions moving forward. All right. So one of the main things we want to understand is that it actually gives us an idea of what the market is doing in a specific area, so that we can know, reasonably what we can expect to get for rates in that area for freight for carrying freight. All right. Loads rate per mile is what we're looking for inside of this market rate. So we have these load boards, right? That truckstop.com, LoadSmart, 123 load board. Those are a few of the top load boards that you'll see that you can get access to. And most of them, or more often than not, you'll see, I'll see carriers use a major load board, right, and stick to that, and not really lean on the diversity of all the load boards that are out there. So what I want to encourage us to do right here in this call is to understand like what's out there, and that we do not want to just lean on one, right, because it gives us less of an access to what's available in the market for freight rates, right? And start leaning on multiple load boards to implement in your technological toolbox is what I want to say, right? Your tech stack toolbox, right? So what does that look like? It looks like, yeah, signing up for that. Yeah, there's a subscription for it. You want to pay that subscription for one, and also you want to look at the subscription for particularly another, like truckstop.com, right? And then you have other ones that might not cost as much, like 123 load board. It can be free at times at a certain level to use 123 load board. LoadSmart, there's a service arrangement with that, depending on whether or not you're hooked up with an affiliate partnership or a connected partnership, like Carrier TMS which is a TMS, trucking management software. You can get hooked up with LoadSmart that way, right? And then you can have that available to you, or you can pay a subscription for LoadSmart as well. All right. Now there are other load boards out here that you can get access to without paying much money for. But what I want you to be left with here is that you don't want to just use one. You want to get you want to have multiple load boards in your toolkit so that you have access to a wider variety of freight to choose from, to select from, so that you get what you want in terms of, freight rate, right, per mile. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. I want to make sure that lands with you. Number one, don't lean on just one. You may have your favorite, that's okay, but don't lean on the one. Grab more than one load board access. Get more than one load board access for your fleet. All right. This will allow you to have more availability for planning freight that's more favorable to you. All right. That's number one thing I want to leave you with in this part of the conversation. Number two is that when you're dealing with these types of, when you're dealing with load boards in general, we want to understand, well, how are these being deployed in our fleet, and what is their value inside of our fleet? Ideally, as a fleet owner, you want to move into a stage of operating in which you have dedicated lanes, you have contracted freight with specific shippers, you have specific relationships with people who you've hauled with before. You can develop relationships to get direct contracts, right? That is ideal, right? That's the ideal situation that you want to have. At the same time, you want to still lean on the load boards to take advantage of market fluxes. All right. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit in more detail. All right. And in this part of this conversation, we want to get a really good understanding of, one, the type of load boards that are available, right? Between like all the ones that are just direct load boards that you can go out and get a subscription for. And then there's another way that we can get access to load boards, and that's through 3PL relationships, third-party logistics relationships. That's what this means. 3PLs, third-party logistics, developing relationships with third-party 3PL companies, which are basically companies like your Coyote Logistics, the TQL, all right, CH Robinson. These are companies that are not what we call asset-based. They don't have trucks of their own. They don't have assets of their own. They are really just third-party sources that connect shippers to carriers. All right. Now, if we can get access to their load boards directly, a lot of them already post to these major load boards like DAT, like truckstop.com, like LoadSmart. But then you'll find that not everything that they have available will be posted on a load board like that, like truckstop.com, like LoadSmart. Guess what? Some of those loads they'll keep in-house, and they won't post them out publicly for people to see, and they'll only post them to their load boards internally. Right? So we want to be able to see what's available overall. Now, some of you guys really didn't understand or know that you're missing out by not being connected directly to these third-party logistics company load boards. I remember when we were planning our loads and planning freight for our company, there was a way that we proceeded to make sure that we had every opportunity available to book freight that was inside of and in line with our goals for the company, right? And to do that, we needed to make sure we were connected with all like Coyote. We had to be connected to CH Robinson. We had to be connected to JB Hunt directly. We had to be connected to companies like NPG. NPG was another company that we had to connect with to make sure that we were directly associated with them so that we wouldn't have missed any opportunity for freight that was not readily available on a load board, right? Through third-party logistics companies. Because of that, we were able to keep freight moving and get the favorable rates that we wanted each and every time. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the other thing you see here is asset-based companies, right? So what does that mean? Well, you're an asset-based company. If you're a carrier, you have equipment, but sometimes as a carrier, you want to broker off freight yourself. You may be looking to expand capacity, and in order to expand capacity, you may want to give some freight off to carriers that you contract onto your company, right? So asset-based companies like Knight Transport or Schneider, right? They actually carry freight of their own, but instead of just doing all the work in-house, they will broker freight to other carriers, right? And they have their own load boards that you can get access to so that you can go directly to them and see what's available within a given market, okay? So what I want you to get inside this conversation is that you're not really as limited as what you think in terms of load boards and spot market. Spot market is when you're able to get out here right now and see what's available in terms of, freight rates, load per mile that you can pick up in any given area, right? Now, you're not limited to just what you thought before this. There's actually a way we can get connected to so many other resources to be able to plan loads where you would not be able to plan them otherwise, where you would think that you were limited somehow in the market. Hopefully that makes sense. Why is it so important, right, to know this and use load boards this way? Well, the main thing that we want to understand about load boards, and you get this already, guys. Like a lot of times you'll be in your company and load boards, they're essential to being able to keep your fleet moving. They're essential to be able to keep the wheels moving on your fleet. And if you utilize the information inside of this conversation, you'll be able to keep the wheels moving, but not just that, but keep them moving at favorable revenue levels. Like, so when we're doing load planning and revenue planning, we want to be able to deploy all the resources at our fingertips. And if you did not know all the other resources at your fingertips based on, the conversation that we had today, well, now you know, and you'll be able to plan your revenue and your numbers in a way where you're going to get more, like a higher amount of revenue volume and a great and a higher probability of you being able to plan out your week for the amount of loads that you're going to take to a large degree. That's what I want to say, right? So load and revenue planning is essential to your business. Load boards, utilize them in the way that we're discussing today, will help you increase the amount of loads per week and the revenue per load, right? These are key metrics that you want to measure inside of your business. This is number one thing that you want to look at when you're using load boards, is to make sure that your load volume and your revenue volume is high, right, in the planning process, right? And deploying in this way helps you do that, right? You also want to use load boards to help build relationships long term, all right? Load boards build relationships long term. It's amazing to me how many people are in the industry and they continue to use load boards for years and decades and not really establish direct relationships. It's almost an automatic thing when you get on a load board and you connect with somebody who's providing you freight. I remember we had this one relationship with a particular broker, and we just talked to them a little bit, and they said, well, we have this lane every day, or every week rather. Right? We run it out every Thursday. You want it? And I was like, well, yeah, we want it, because that makes sense. Lines up with what we want, so we're going to take that as like almost a dedicated route. They had a lot of capacity available, a lot of load volume available for that particular lane, and we could run it as a part of their overall capacity, right? And we didn't have to think about it. We just knew that we needed to be in that specific area every single week, and we get that load, and it made sense, right? But it's because we developed a relationship like right away, right? But if you're going out and just like going through the motions of getting on a board and just planning freight based on the load board and not developing relationships, well, you're gonna not have consistent and reliable volume, consistent and reliable revenue, because you're going to continue to rely on what the market fluctuation is, right? And not be locked into somebody who can keep you moving at a rate that you're going to get consistently and reliably. So those relationships are key to catapult your business into the next level, which means that you have consistent and reliable load volume that you're going to get at nearly a dedicated level, which means that you're going to run that consistently and reliably, same time every week, or same time daily, even, is what I want to say. All right. So you want to build those relationships. Those relationships can turn into contracts, direct contracts with shippers. They can turn into extra capacity for your fleet, like those partnerships where you can actually become a freight broker yourself when there's available freight beyond what your internal capacity can do. You want to take that information, you want to use that information on load boards to really foster and build relationships along the way, right? It is a direct access to being consistent in your fleet. Now, you also want to use load boards to leverage market swings. I talked about this a little while ago. I talked about it earlier. Now, what does that mean? It means that sometimes, freight rates are higher than what they were before, right? Sometimes they're lower than what they were before. And you want to make sure that market-wise, you're acknowledging trends, knowing what the trends are. And we talk about this a lot, guys. When we look at we have a superhero trucking profitability analysis spreadsheet. That's what we have available inside the group. Okay, and with that spreadsheet, you're able to see and utilizing the way that we utilize it, the fluctuations in the market, the trends in the market. So what does that mean? It means fuel prices. When fuel prices dip, it's like, man, that's a favorable time for us to go all in and make more money. When freight rates go up, right? This is what we're talking about in this conversation. Freight rates go up. It's a favorable time to get into the spot market more so than leaning on contracted freight, right? So that's what I want. That's what I mean when I say leverage market swings. When the market goes up, well, you can all that you can inside the load boards at that point in time. Use the load boards heavily at that point in time to make sure you take advantage of everything that the market is giving at that point in time, right? And then you can step away and lean on the relationships that you built contractually, right, to maintain a baseline level of revenue when the spot market dips. Okay, really good thing to do here, guys, in terms of load planning and making sure you're getting everything out of your fleet that you possibly can during those moments. The next thing, guys, in terms of using these load boards optimally in your fleet, here's the thing that we want to leave you with in the conversation. Number one, have multiple options. We talked about this, right? Don't just lean on one load board. Keep building your resources of load boards that you're connected to, so that you're not leaving anything on the table. That's number one, right? Number two, something we haven't talked about yet, is managing your filters inside of load boards. So what do I mean here? Did you know that there are so many filters you can use to determine what type of loads you want to get on a specific load board? Of course, you know that you can go from whatever pickup location, right? But then there's a certain rate that you want to get per mile, right? Some of us know that. But then, like in terms of backhauls, deadheads, specific brokers or 3PL logistics partners and load boards, we can filter it all the way down to who we want to really take loads from and what's available, so that we can get exactly what we want when we want it. The only issue is we use too many filters, is that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to see what else is available outside of what those filters are. All right. So you really want to know exactly what it is that you want to get in terms of load planning. Like, what is your intention for the week in terms of load planning? What are your goals, right? And set your filters accordingly, and then start trying to dial those and tweak those so that you're able to get the exact sweet spot of loads that are inside of the alignment of what you want to get for your fleet, right? Now, there's heavy competition, guys. I'll say that because we all know that the freight we're trying to pick on a load board. If you had any experience with load boards, that freight will just go, and you won't be able to get it a lot of times. But if you actually have a really strict planning process, which looks like here's some feedback, all right, in terms of planning out loads. Most people shy away from this. Planning loads early, booking loads early. When I say early, a week out, right? Finding loads that are a week out that you can get planned on your fleet, because you kind of know exactly where you're going to go in that respect, like with the equipment that's available, right? Planning it a week ahead, booking those loads, right? And being prepared to last minute to communicate, if anything happens with that, you can actually make the adjustments last minute. But when we plan it ahead, this is the thing about planning ahead, is that typically you can get some things locked in that are pretty good, some loads that are locked in that are pretty good. A lot of people think that you'd have to wait till the last minute for the customer, the brokers, to be frantic about not being able to cover the freight. But a lot of the times there are really great rates that you can get if you plan a week ahead. If you actually are really good at this, right? You have to be good at this, right, to plan it ahead like more than a week. But if you actually get that the expertise in load planning, you can get decent loads ahead of time, right? So that you don't have to deal with these market uncertainties, and then the freight not necessarily being available when you need to be available, and everybody else competing like they compete at the end, right? You can actually have really good performance inside of loads by planning a week ahead, is what I want to say, all right? Not something that a lot of people do. Most people will wait till the last minute or plan like maybe a day or so ahead just because of coverage, right? The uncertainty in the coverage. But you can do really, really well planning a certain amount of your freight a week ahead and then locking it in that way and getting really good rates for your loads, okay? Which is number three. Yeah, it is okay to plan ahead. As long as you understand what you're doing when you're planning, you can do this, right, pretty effectively and get what you want out of your fleet. All right. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. Load boards and load planning can be a little bit tricky, but they're especially tricky when you don't set yourself up to win, right? And when I mean not setting yourself up to win, most people that I see, they'll lock themselves into one main load board that they'll use, and they'll spend all their time there. If they don't see what they want there, it just means that it's not available. But then they're missing out, right? You're missing out on the loads that have been posted, right? All the loads that have been posted to other boards that have not been posted to yours, right? They're missing out on third-party logistics companies that don't necessarily post everything to the board. They keep some of those loads in house to their own board, right? But if you don't have that access, well, you won't know, and then you'll be missing out. Is what I want to say. All right, so guys, set yourselves up to win is what I want to leave you with in terms of load boards and load planning. Don't exclude yourself from all the opportunities. Make sure you're using multiple sources, multiple options. Understand how to leverage your filters. Understand how to plan ahead. Understand what it looks like to use through third-party logistics companies and asset-based companies. Put them in your repertoire of people that you work with. Continue to build relationships and have your fleet operations work for you, is what I want to say. All right, guys, it's been great being with you tonight. Hopefully you got some value from this call. I will see you next week. Take care, guys.